Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of can't-miss deals just in time for summer.
The denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Plus, buy it online and pick it up in-store the same day for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to this edition of There Can Only Be One, the podcast that puts together the all-star best-of playlists of your favorite bands and artists, and a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Hello to all of our listeners in Washington, New Jersey, and around the world. How are you guys doing? All right. We've been on a bit of a CanCon kick, if you will, getting all the Canadian content out there, and this week is no different because we're talking about one of my personal favorite bands to come out of the Great White North. We're talking about the Northern Pikes, and when we're talking CanCon, there may be no better guest to have on than Joseph Whalen back on the show. Dude, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Jason. Elbows up. Here we go. Come on now. This is going to be a great, fun time talking about a great Canadian band that, honestly, I didn't know all that much about. I kind of only knew one song heading into this, so this was a great learning experience for me.
See, when you were on doing the Sloan episode, and I think I distinctly remember talking about this during that episode, or maybe it was after the recording, I'm like, if you like Sloan and the harmonies you're hearing there, you're going to freaking love the Northern Pikes. And you were like, count me in.
Yeah.
So in your discovery of this discography, what was your opinion?
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of my notes on the very first songs on the EP, the first one we're going to talk about, is obviously they predate them, but it reminds me a little bit of Murphy and Pentland from Sloan. So I had that connection right away, but I completely forgot that you'd even mentioned that. So I was just kind of like, am I like off base here? Is this like the Canadian music wheels turning in my head kind of thing that's pointing me in this direction of a band that I'm more familiar with and obviously have a great affinity for? But Northern Pikes, yeah, you're absolutely right. The harmonies there, the hooks. And there's one album in particular that I was like, you can really see a connection between the Northern Pikes and Sloan. And I loved it. It was a great journey for me.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because we had Lyle Robichaud on the show doing a Spin Shuffle Skip episode talking about Big Shiny Tunes 1. And of course, Sloan is on that disc. And I think the comment was, the thing with Sloan is that it's like tragically hip songwriting sensibilities with Northern Pikes harmonies. And that kind of feels right on brand.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And I think, yeah, like that was the one thing that really jumped off the page for me was, you know, and I kind of went in with like a preconceived notion of what to expect based on really the only song by the Northern Pikes that I had a basic idea of heading into this. And then as I went through this entire catalog, I was like, wait a minute, these guys kind of have that element of like different vocalists, different type of feel to each song. So you never really know what you're going to get. And it varies from song to song on each record. So it was a great journey in that way.
Oh, yeah. So here's what we're going to do, dear listeners. We're about to go through 10 Northern Pikes albums and EPs. As always, we're not covering any live or compilation albums, with one slight exception, that being 2023's Time to Time, because that is an acoustic reworking of a lot of their songs, but with some new songs added in. So, you know what? Felt perfect just adding that to the list. We are not also covering their Seen in North America EP. The reason why, a lot of the songs ended up on Big Blue Sky, so we didn't want to repeat ourselves. Even though there are some differences, we figured just do Big Blue Sky as it is. But we're going to start in 1984 with the Northern Pikes self-titled EP. The band at this point is Jay Semko, Brian Potvin, Merle Brick, and Glenn Hollingshead. So obviously this is a 1984 release, and it kind of feels like that new wave kind of vibe to this.
Absolutely. That's one of the very first things that I write in my notes. And it honestly, like, kind of gives me a little bit of like Police vibes a little bit too. Like I kind of got a little bit of that off the first track, but that's what I'll leave there.
Actually, you know what's funny? Throughout this entire album, the bass lines of the bass grooves were really, really complex. And I was really kind of vibing on what they were doing. As a bassist, I'm kind of biased towards that, and the bass does carry well. But I found that in this early EP, the bass was doing a ton of the heavy lifting in comparison to other albums later on down the road where the harmonies and the riffs took over. But off of this EP, what did you go with?
Yeah, so I actually really enjoyed this EP. I thought this was maybe even like one of the stronger top to bottom listens that I had over the entire course of this. And I ended up going with Level Break You because that is the song, as I alluded to earlier, that really tickled my brain a little bit and reminded me of Chris Murphy and Patrick Pentland from Sloan. And again, I say, obviously the Northern Pikes predated Sloan, but that is the one thing that really jumped off the page to me about that particular song. It has a great catchy hook. Obviously, like it's just a great groove, great vocals, the backing instrumentation, all of it's on point. So I ended up with going Level Break You, but Why Can't You Look Me in the Eye has an unreal groove. That was a super close second for me. And Don't You Worry, Just Dance, also a great groove. Like you said, yeah, the bass line on this EP does a lot of heavy lifting, and it really sets this like, you know, new wave, like super. I loved it. It was great. Yeah, I enjoyed every song on this, to be honest.
Yeah, the Why Can't You Look Me in the Eye bass line was fan-freaking-tastic. and then, of course, they get that Barry White part in there. I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
What the heck is going on here? Love Will Break You is actually my short list on this one, but I'm also sticking in the middle of the disc. I'm going with I Think I'm Sorry.
Ooh.
It very much, again, it feels like a 1984 song. It feels like that New Order with Canadian sensibilities kind of new wave. But again, it still fits in what in my mind is a Northern Pikes song.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one that I kind of like, I got to Don't You Worry, Just Dance, and it kind of like glossed over. I Think I'm Sorry. But now that you say that, I have to go back and listen to it so I can really activate my brain a little bit more. But no, I mean, you're absolutely right.
We now get to their first major label release, Big Blue Sky, released in 1987. We have a member change. Glenn Hollingshead is out with Don Schmid now on drums. The album is gold in Canada and peaked at number 26 on the Canadian album charts. There were 3 singles off of this one. Teen Land charted the highest, hitting number 29, and this is a lot of people's first real introduction to the Northern Pikes.
Yeah, that was one that I honestly wasn't overly familiar with, but when I listened to it, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's that radio-friendly, super catchy hook.
I mean, there are some other singles on here, but yeah. For most people, Teen Land is probably the first song that said, hi, we're the Northern Pikes, and we're here.
Yeah, it's a very much it feels like that kind of early arrival song that like you would recognize a band for, like, before like the big hit. Like there's like this one that's like, okay, yeah, like it's a very radio friendly song. It's got that hook. It has the harmonies as well. Like it definitely ticks off a lot of the boxes.
Yeah. And when you think about this, when this album came out, and I'm doing the math here, yeah, I was in my teens and this song came out. So it's just like, yeah, okay, I associate with this a little bit more than I care to imagine.
Yeah, it's songs that speak to you at that specific moment in time, right? That really does a lot of heavy lifting.
It also helps, and yeah, it's my pick, so I'm being Captain Obvious here.
Well, yeah,
but also that bass groove, like it's a darker song when you listen to the bass groove, and then you get to the bridge, that whole "Give Us a Break" part. I'm like, this sounds happy. And then we get to like this slightly darker bass groove to it. I'm just like, there's a duality to this song, and it feels like it's almost telling two stories. It's almost like part of it, the darker part's kind of almost like from the parent standpoint, and then like the bridge is kind of like from the teen standpoint.
Yeah, I really was struck by it, and it's throughout their catalog. Just there's a lot of depth to these songs. Like there's just a lot more than just, you see at the surface level. So like that's definitely a song that, yeah, I didn't even really consider that for Teenland because I was just kind of caught by the hook. And then that was the only thing that really stuck out to me. But yeah, there's a lot of depth in a lot of these songs. Like later on, I get tied up in some of that. But for this, yeah, Teenland was, great pick. Absolutely.
So what did you go with off of Big Blue Sky?
I went with Never Again. I like I should feel lucky, but instead I only feel shame. I thought this was like a really interesting song about the consequences of allowing feelings to consume you, whether it's fear, shame, love, whatever it might be. I was really struck by that. I thought that this was a really interesting song in that aspect. Honestly, this was the one that really kind of jumped off the page. There wasn't really anything else that I was super like. Jackie T was a cool rocker. That one was a little bit close. Dancing in a Dance Club. I love the way that the tempo sort of picks up at the end, but the lyrics of Never Again was really what sort of jumped off the page for me on Big Blue Sky.
Yeah, I mean, I had Sold the Farm and Things I Do for Money on my short list because Things I Do for Money is just a vibe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Secrets of the Alibi, released in 1988, hit number 31 on the Canadian charts and is certified gold in Canada. There were 3 singles off of this one. Hopes Go Astray charted the highest, hitting number 45. Again, more building into what we know of the Northern Pikes and their sound and what would eventually be on their biggest album, Snow in June. Secrets of the Alibi definitely seems like that progression album for them.
Yeah, you can sort of like, and this is the one thing that will become a little bit more evident. It became evident to me later on, but as you're saying, yes, there is definitely like a progression and an evolution that's happening, whether it's kind of like a little bit slower in this particular era of the band, but as we get later on, like it becomes super obvious that it's like, okay, like these guys are really evolving, the sound's evolving. And yeah, this album I think kind of teases that a little bit.
Well, that's the thing too. When you think about like their EPs, the first 2 EPs that came out before Big Blue Sky, obviously you have to think, when bands are playing in bars and you're writing original songs, you're writing songs in order to get over with the crowd. So you're seeing a lot of songs about dancing and partying and all that kind of stuff in those first kind of albums. And then the sound progresses into this very much, working Canadian band kind of vibe. So you can hear the evolution of their career almost in these first couple of discs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
So off of Secrets of the Alibi, what did you go with?
So this one was interesting, Jason, because I kind of went in, like, as I've said a couple times, and I think everyone knows the song that I'm referring to is the one that I knew and I was aware of and listened to quite a bit. But there was another song that I knew, and I read the name of the title of the track, and I was like, that looks familiar. That looks like a song that I know. And it was Hopes Go Astray. Mm-hmm. So I was like, dude, this song. That's the first thing I wrote in my notes. This song. It's like I read the title. Great hook, man. Great breakdown on the last chorus. That's not my pick, though. That's on the short list. My pick was Wait For Me, because I really like the lyrics in Wait For Me. The part where it's like, you can dig for silver with a shovel of gold. You can search for a lover and a hand to hold. You can wait forever, or so I've been told, but I will wait for you. It's a great tune. It's a really solid tune all around. It's got a great rocking finish as well. Place That's Insane. I had that on my short list as well. The backstory of Place That's Insane really was what did it for me. It was just that the girl who works at a club downtown. Great. That's a great Canadian story there, Jason. We're telling stories here. And then Let's Pretend was also kind of one that stuck out to me because the song starts out referencing Catholics and Protestants. Like my Newfoundlander brain was immediately like, okay, like let's get into this. Like we're diving right in. But Wait For Me was my pick. I thought it was a great tune overall.
Yeah, I had Wait For You and Places Insane as my short list, but I'm going with Hopes Go Astray. And here's the thing. Normally I'm not necessarily someone who jumps on the singles, but it's kind of hard not to with the Northern Pikes because their singles, especially in these early years, are so freaking iconic. Hopes Go Astray. The song's a bop.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a maritime vibe bop to it. But adding to that, the breakdown of this, where you just like drop everything out. You got a bass sustain note, and it's just drums and vocals, and it feels like that. And I talked about this earlier with their EPs. They're written for the crowd. That breakdown feels like it's written for the crowd specifically.
Yeah, you just stole right off of my brain, dude. I was about to say that seems like a song that if you were to see them live would probably be your song of the night, honestly. Like it'd probably be the best sort of concert experience song in their catalog. If I'm thinking of it right now, that would be the one that would jump off the page to me. That'd be like, that's a great like concert live experience song.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Absolutely. Snow in June, released in 1990, peaked at number 16 on the Canadian charts and is their platinum disc in Canada. There are 4 singles off of this one. She Ain't Pretty, She Just Looks That Way charted the highest, hitting number 6. At the 1991 Junos, they were nominated for Group of the Year but lost to Blue Rodeo. She Ain't Pretty was nominated for Single of the Year but lost to Just Came Back from Colin James. And they were nominated for Best Video for She Ain't Pretty, lost to Let Your Backbone Slide by Maestro Fresh West. Right now, every Canadian is going, oh my God, this is so awesome. And every other country is going, what the hell are you talking about?
What is happening?
there is some damn fine music up here in the Great White North. You just got to discover it, which is why we're here. So off of Snow in June, what did you go with?
Yeah, this is kind of a cop out. I went with She Ain't Pretty. It's classic, man. Dude, that song is classic. Like just from the opening riff of that song and everything that comes with it, it is a complete and total package. For me, it's the line, her ego wrote checks incredibly fast, but her personality didn't have the cash. That is maybe, I going out on a limb, Jason, I think that's my favorite line in any song. Like, I think that is one of the most brilliantly written lines in any song that I've heard in my life. And yeah, She Ain't Pretty. It's just, it would be that song that, yeah, you would go to see Northern Pikes, and if they didn't play it, you would be like, come on, man. Like, that is the absolute classic Northern Pikes song. Again, as I teased throughout, I didn't want to give away the title, but I think people could probably have surmised that She Ain't Pretty was the Northern Pikes song that I was most familiar with, that I listened to going into this episode before listening to all of their other songs and their whole catalog. But yeah, She Ain't Pretty, man. It's just classic. Kiss Me You Fool's a great tune. Other than that, Girl with a Problem, I thought was a fine song as well. Strong performances in that one overall, but can't not pick She Ain't Pretty, man. That's like the third Canadian national anthem, like second or third. It's like right up there.
Wait, you're equating a country's national anthem to a song called She Ain't Pretty.
I think that's fair. I think most people would probably agree with me, Jason. It's probably like, Oh Canada, Blow It High Dough, She Ain't Pretty.
Wait, what, not 50 Mission Cap?
Oh, that's very true, Jason. See, I'm not a Leafs fan.
Fair.
We just lost some listeners, eh?
Fair and fair. All right. So, you know what's funny, and I can't disagree with you. She Ain't Pretty is definitely one of those songs that goes over. And I say that knowing that I have played that many, many times in many bars. It's in my set list, but it's not my pick.
Ooh.
Even though I freaking love the song and I'm totally connected with it, and I get to see the vibe from the crowd every time we do play it. And yes, it goes over. I ended up going with Girl with a Problem. And I think it's more because of the harmonies in this one.
Yeah.
Like the Northern Pikes are definitely known for their vocal harmonies, and this is one that really showcases it. And it's that part where you get to the section where you can lie to me, you can lie to yourself for a while. And it's just like things are sustaining, but the vocals are just soaring.
In my notes, it says backing vocals on You Can Lie to Me on that part. Unbelievable. I can't disagree with you there, Jason. I think that vocally, this may be the song on this record that has the strongest performance and a great ensemble. And the harmonies, like you said, is just immaculate stuff from the Northern Pikes.
Yeah, I also had Dream Away and Kiss Me You Fool on my short list, but Snow in June is a freaking-tastic album. Next up is Neptune, released in 1992, hit number 25 on the Canadian charts and is gold in Canada. There were 3 singles off of this one. Believe charted the highest, hitting number 17. So off of Neptune, what'd you go with?
Yeah, this one was a little bit of a slower burn for me, if I'm honest. Twister, I thought was a great rocker right off the top. I thought that was a really great guitar hook right away. It hooks you right into this record. Believe, really nice vocals, sweet song. It has great harmonies on the hook. But I had to go quite a ways into this album for the one that really grabbed me. And Jason, I think if I know you the way that I think I know you, you may have gone with this song as well. It's Everything. Because the guitars, man, oh my God, the guitars on this song. The vocals are great. And I wrote that this would be such a great concert song, that if you went to see Northern Pikes, that this would be maybe one that you weren't necessarily thinking of going into the show that was going to steal the show. But it does, because it's just everything. Everything is on point. And honestly, I wrote down that it might be my favorite vocal performance on the catalog to this point. I think that this song just has the entire package, and it's not typically the type of song that I would go to. It's a little bit of that heavier, which is why I immediately thought of you, and maybe this would be one that would be up your alley. But I'd be, hey, you've surprised me with some of them so far. So maybe this is one where I'm off base.
You're off base.
Oh man, because I'm 1 for 2 now. I had the Jim Croce one, 5 good minutes, and now, damn it.
See, here's the thing with Twister. Yeah, you have to think that this is written specifically because She Ain't Pretty was such a big song. And of course, the record company is going to be like, yeah, well, we want another one of those. Twister is a great barn burner. You can't go wrong with it. But in comparison to Believe, there's a reason why this is the biggest single off of this disc. It is so freaking good. And I think it's one of those things where with the chorus vocally, you know, and I ask myself why. I can't believe it's true. After 3 million fights, I'm still in love with you. I can't believe it's dwindled away to a forced hello and I'll see you someday. This is so cinematic. This is a novel unto itself. I did have Twister, Worlds Away, and Francesca on my short list, but with Believe, you also get the name dropping of Winnipeg in the lyrics off this. So again, Canadian for the win. We now move on to Truest Inspiration, released in 2001. There were 2 singles off this that didn't chart, Echo Off the Beach and Color into Color. So off of Truest Inspiration, this is a 9-year wait for the next album. And they had actually kind of semi-retired in 1993 after Neptune. And then they're like, well, we can kind of do this at our own pace now. So that's where Truest Inspiration comes in. Your thoughts on this disc as a whole?
So right out of the gate, my thought was, wow, okay, this sound is really evolving now. Like we've had the hiatus, we've had that little break, and now you can really feel that, okay, yeah, like the last disc that we listened to was in the early to mid 90s. Now we're in the 2000s, and you can really kind of hear that evolution. Obviously, we weren't listening to that evolution transpire the way like with Sloan, where it was like every 2 years you're getting a record. There's a long hiatus here where we're not really hearing the influences sort of take shape and hear how that is creating this new music. So it's kind of like, you know, it was kind of a cool place to pick up and just kind of be like, okay, yeah, like this is where they're at now, as opposed to like the EP where we're talking about like the bass lines. It's like very like, you know, almost Police inspired, very new wave. And now we're a few records past us, and then we're an 8-year hiatus later, and now we're like, okay, yeah, we're in the 2000s, and these guys have got different influences. They're writing creatively. It's an interesting disc all around.
I will admit that right off the bat, I was worried because this was the first time I've ever really kind of dived into this disc, and it starts slow. I'll anyone who's going to deep dive into the discography, and I highly recommend deep diving this discography if you like good vocal harmonies and good songwriting. This album starts slow. For me, it really picked up at head first. This song is so lush. The vocal harmonies. I don't know if you're like this, like me, broken like me. I love a song where I can kind of pull off a falsetto hum in the car and sing along with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm kind of broken that way too. We're broken in the same way for sure.
We're all good. We are good. We are broken in parallel. We're good. Off of Truest Inspiration, what'd you go with?
Yeah, so I would agree with your assessment though, as much as like I was struck by the evolution that had sort of happened over the hiatus and now we're into a new decade. Um it was a slow burn for me. There were some songs here where I didn't really feel it. I wasn't really moved by it. Out of Love is one that I was like, I like the percussion, that added sort of instrumentation. That's always something that catches my ear when you gotta get like a little bit more than what you are accustomed to hearing from a particular band. I Can't Compare was a great tune as well. It has great vocal performance, beautiful melodic guitar parts as well that really stuck out to me. But I had to wait till the very last song of the album for me to get what I was sort of after with this album, and that was Beautiful Music, because I am a sucker, Jason, and I think this has been something that I brought up before. For any song that has a soft piano opening, that is immediately like I am in. I am in for the ride for whatever this is. And yeah, the line, "We are so lucky to be listening to this beautiful music." It has beautiful vocals. The instrumentation, again, the piano really adds to it. It's a song that lives up to the name, honestly. Beautiful Music. It's a great tune. And yeah, like I said, it did take a little bit longer to get into kind of what I was after, but we got there in the end. So that was something that I sort of took away from this one.
Yeah, this album very much feels self-reflective in some of their lyric writing. This and the next disc, It's a Good Life, released in 2003. There were 2 singles off of that one as well, It's a Good Life and Underwater. Bit of a pickup here for It's a Good Life, but what's your pick off this disc?
I loved the beginning of this album. I was in, man. I was invested in this one. Jason, and if we can make another Sloan comparison, this one came out the same year as Action Packed.
Oh, and I loved Action Packed.
I know you did. I do too. It's probably my favorite Sloan record, start to finish. This one has that very radio friendly feel to it. And I went with Foolish Pride because I love the vocals to start. Really fun song, start to finish. And the thing about this record, Jason, quick hitters. Like I feel like my notes aren't really doing the songs justice, but they're quick. They're like, there's like 2:30, you're out. 3 minutes, you're out.
Yeah.
And so there's not much to dive into, but it's the hooks, it's the harmonies, it's everything that you come to expect. And again, it's like Action Packed, where you do have that, where it's like Rest of My Life. That's a 2-minute, 30-second song. Like you're not getting a lot in there, or at least in terms of to sink your teeth into, but there's a lot there. Just there's not a lot to comment on, really. It's just a good song. So Foolish Pride was one for me. It's a Good Life is a great opener. Blame the Song is a cool one to close out with. A little bit of a longer one, not the quick hitters that I'd sort of been describing. But yeah, man, this record, I think maybe start to finish was, I said the EP was, but I think this one in terms of the feel of it. And again, the parallels with Sloan, came out the same year as Action Packed, has that sort of radio ready feel to it.
Yeah, and Blame It on the Song has a lot of self-references into it.
Yes.
So again, very much like Beautiful Music was on the previous album, again, it feels very self-referential and almost a realization that, yeah, you know what, we're kind of having fun doing this again. And this album feels like it was written for that live crowd, whereas Truest Inspiration felt like it was writing to get back into the sake of writing again.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And I think, yeah, I mean, I kind of love, like, again, it took us a little while to get there, but I really did like that switch that was kind of flipped to this album, where it was like, you do feel okay, it is 2003 now, and we're sort of into, again, a new decade. And yeah, the influences are really interesting. And yeah, I love this album start to finish.
See, right off the bat, they had me. It's a Good Life is my pick. And I have to put this out there. Any movie that has the ability to take this song and put it into like one of those, the team is coming together to do the thing in order to be able to triumph over whatever the problem is. This feels like that kind of road trip end montage kind of song, and it needs to be used in a film in that way.
We need, again, this is a call to all Canadian directors, writers, producers, whatever it may be. You know more about movies than I do. I don't know who makes those calls, but in any case, someone needs to do it. Someone needs to do it because yeah, this album and It's a Good Life is a really just a great feel to it. Just a really upbeat feel to it. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
We now get to an interesting album, Long Walk Home. This is a collaboration album with Les Stroud, also known as Survivor Man, known as Les Stroud and the Pikes. This is an interesting EP, and it's got some interesting blues vibes to this.
It really does. It really does. The sound from the moment that you listen to it, it really does strike you in a very similar way to what the previous two albums did, where it's like we're talking about the evolution. And then, bear in mind too, I mean, as much as this is a collaboration, this is also like we're talking about 4 years between the last album and now this collaboration with Les Stroud. So there's some time off there too, right? So that's kind of an interesting part of this as well.
All right. So this, tag team with Survivor Man. Can't say that without saying it like that.
Say it. Yeah,
exactly.
You have to say it that way.
Your pick off this disc.
Yeah. I was really into Three Cheers. That is the one for me, I think. It's a good bar song. It's got the accordion. And, the thing that I said is like, this is kind of like an anthem to small town Canada. Like you just, all right, you're going down, you're out to the bar with the boys, you grab a 10 spot, you're going. That's the kind of thing, right? Like I was really into this song. The blues feel too, like you get the harmonica all over this album. You just get a different feel entirely, which I thought was a really interesting direction for the Pikes to go. And obviously this collaboration with Les Stroud, it was a very interesting record to listen to, or EP to listen to. And so I ended up going with Three Cheers because, got time on my side and a drink in my hand. I feel like that's so if She Ain't Pretty is the third Canadian national anthem, this one's like maybe like fifth. It's like you have to have a little bit in there, but yeah, no, it's a very Canadian song.
For the record, this is the one disc in the collection that is not on Spotify. So you can find this disc on YouTube, or if you get a chance to, find a way to buy it and, support that way. Three Cheers is my short list. It's a fantastic song. And as I was listening to it, I'm sitting there thinking, this would be a song I would need to learn. And I recognize it's not Irish, but it feels like the kind of song you could play on a St. Patrick's Day gig and get away with it.
1000%. Absolutely. I mean, any song that mentions that you have a drink in your hand is automatically like, okay, well, we're Irish now. That's enough. That's all you need.
Yeah. Put this in the category with Home for a Rest for songs that aren't Irish, but you can get away with it on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But I went with We Crawl. This is the perfect end credit music for any kind of film. So if It's a Good Life is your montage, We Crawl has to be the end credit song because it's triumphant and cinematic all at the same time.
Yeah, that one was really interesting for me. I love the guitars on it. And then the guitars are really the only thing that stood out to me on that level. So again, that might be one I have to go back again and sort of really appreciate when I listen to it. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. It is a very cinematic. I mean, I feel like in some ways, like I think the blues elements of this particular EP kind of very much go hand in hand with like it's very cinematic feel kind of, because like whether it's Steady Job and like you're coming out with that harmonica, like I think that's also one where, you kind of get a little bit in your head of like, okay, like, yeah, I could definitely see this in a movie, in a montage, and anything really.
We then had to wait 12 years for our next dip into the Northern Pikes. Forest of Love, released in 2019. We have a member change at this point. Merle Brick had stepped away from the band. Kevin Kane from the Grapes of Wrath has now joined the fold. Your thoughts on this disc?
I was a little bit surprised by how much, man, they really hold up. Like, dude, we're talking about what, like over 30 years since the EP, like 35, if my math is correct. I'm not a math. I'm a communication studies major, Jason. So you'll have to forgive me if my math is off there, but
you are mathing adequately at this point.
All right. Sweet. There it is. That's all that I've ever wanted to do. But yeah, like we're 30 years into this and there are some songs on here that honestly, I think hold up just as well with the songs that were released on that EP, released in the early to mid 90s. I I was into this, man. I really enjoyed this actually. And later on in this album, there's maybe my favorite. And that's a spoiler, Jason. I don't want to give it away. It's the whole premise of the episode. I'm going to give it away, but later in the episode, or later in this record, sorry, there's a song that really does stand up as a contender to be my overall pick. I'm surprised.
So, what did you go with off this song or off this album?
I got you fumbling now too, Jason. My words are all over the place here today. It's even affecting
we
you.
math okay, but we English bad.
We English very bad. I went with Mr. Unhappy. This song just tickles my brain. I was like, what is this? This is amazing. The melody is beautiful. The vocals are great. The guitar solo. I was just like, dude, it's the second and last song on an album released 35 years after your introductory EP. And this song, I feel like, is like right there for me, like heavyweight fight with like She Ain't Pretty and all the others as like my favorite of their entire catalog. I was really struck by that. I was like, man, like the longevity of these guys. And we understand, and we've pointed out, there's hiatuses, there's like little breaks and stuff. 35 years, man, like to have the creative influences to be able to create songs like this. One that I also had on my short list was Will Over Will, which again, the pick up in the tempo, like we're not talking anymore about like, you know, that 2003 album where I was referencing like the radio ready, like, you know, super in your face kind of like that one takes a while to get to where it gets to and the pickup in the tempo. For those guys to be writing those types of songs, like composing something like that at this stage in their career, man, I was really struck by that. So that's on my short list. Canada Boy is on my short list because of course it is. But Mr. Unhappy, again, I when I'm unable to articulate why I like a song, I default to it just tickles my brain. This song tickles my brain in the perfect way.
See, I had Will Over Will on my short list, as well as Canada Boy and Faith of a Fool. Also on my short list was a song called Don't You Give Up. Now, I recognize that this album came out in 2019, but knowing what was right around the corner in 2020, this song feels like it should have been written during the pandemic as opposed to before the pandemic. So, Northern Pikes, what did you know and when did you know it? Because it kind of feels like you had some advanced knowledge off this. I ended up going with King and His Castle off of this. And while it's a good rocker, there's no question that the Northern Pikes can write a good rock song. It's a kind of a dirty rocker though, because the distortion on the vocals adds something that they haven't really done during their run.
Yeah, I was actually, and I don't know if it was that specific song, but there was a point where I definitely noticed that there was a little bit more distortion, a little bit more of sort of effects. It kind of created a different feel to the songs than we had come to expect from the Northern Pikes. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I had that just a solid opener. I think a great rocker, as you mentioned. But yeah, no, I didn't specifically notice the distortion on the guitars in that one. I don't think. But again, Jason, you're opening my eyes to so many songs. There's the ones that I was into, these ones that you're into, and now I have to go back and listen to them again because I don't know that I fully appreciated them.
Homework has been assigned.
It's again, and I thought that I was already finished the homework, and now there's more homework. Come on, Jason. This isn't. No, it's a great experience to listen to the Northern Pikes. So I'm happy to do it.
Our last disc in the collection is Time to Time, released in 2023. Now, this mostly contains reworked acoustic and very orchestral versions of a lot of their songs, but there are some new ones on there. So, off of this disc, did you go with one of the new ones or did you go with one of the reworked ones?
I did go with one of the reworked ones. And I feel like I'm not necessarily cheating because the reworked one was one that I wasn't necessarily fond or like as big a fan of off of the original release. I went with Love These Hands because, Jason, the fiddle. If I hear a fiddle, and again, this goes back to the Newfoundland, fake Ireland. We're kind of diet Ireland a little bit. If I hear a fiddle, I'm gonna go bat crazy, Jason. That's gonna be the complete and honest truth with you. I'm sorry I created more work for you. You're gonna have to censor me saying that. But I love the fiddle, man. And the thing about this album, I liked She Ain't Pretty because it was cool to hear it sort of stripped down. The piano stands out more, which again, I love piano. Um, the Things You Saw in Me later on, which was one of the newer songs that they released, that one has really great fiddle and it's got the mandolin as well. So overall, I'm just happy because I love the fiddle, I love the mandolin, but I loved this version of Love These Hands because the fiddle, like it just completely like you're not even I wasn't anticipating to hear any fiddle. I just thought it was like, okay, it's gonna be guitars and very stripped down performances and removing all the layers. And then you're just like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take the fiddle, absolutely. And yeah, so I was really happy with this. I was like, man, this is a super creative way of doing this song acoustically. Very well composed, I thought.
See, I wanted to point out Things You Saw in Me because of the new songs, that's probably the one that stood out the most.
Yes.
Girl with a Problem comes over very well as far as the new arrangement, but I think the one that elevated from the original recording to this was Dream Away. Right off the bat, it took a song that was kind of boppy, kind of fun, kind of sing-alongy, and turned it lush and cinematic and so much bigger than what it was. It gave the song a different vibe. The original released back all the way back in 1987, and I'm doing the math here, and 36 years later. Woo. Or even 36, and it's a sing-along kind of bar kind of vibe, and here it just takes it to a different feel, and it becomes almost ethereal as opposed to just rallying and sing-along. This is what you can do with a song, and it's still the same damn song. It just it hits differently here.
The one thing that really strikes me sometimes with artists that do the sort of acoustic sort of re-releases, the stripped down releases, is that, and I don't want to generalize, but there's a lot of times where it kind of feels like, okay, like you guys are kind of just doing this because like you can turn around a song that everybody already knows, everybody already likes. You get a little bit more, sort of airplay. It gets sort of back in the consciousness again. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, that song. And then it's not necessarily to make a new version of that song so much as it is to promote the song that already exists, that people are already aware of. What I feel like Northern Pikes did an amazing job of is bring like completely different compositions to the table of these already sort of established, well-known songs, which I don't know that everybody does that in that situation, because I think, as I said, a lot of the time, some of these acoustic renditions of them are basically just the same songs. You're just, okay, now it's just one acoustic guitar or two acoustic guitars as opposed to, an electric guitar and a bass and a, this and that and whatever. You're getting into, I feel like with this particular album, actually like there was real care and effort into making these songs feel separate from the established what they had done and what they had released 30 odd years ago. I thought that was really cool of them.
All right, so now we come to the end of our journey, so please Joseph, remind our listeners what your picks are. Then if there can only be one Northern Pikes song, what's it going to be? So
off of the Northern Pikes EP, I went with Love Will Break You. Big Blue Sky, I went with Never Again. Secrets of the Alibi, I went for Wait For Me. Snow in June, went with She Ain't Pretty. Neptune, I went with Everything. Truest Inspiration, I went with Beautiful Music. It's a Good Life, I went with Foolish Pride. Long Walk Home, Three Cheers. Forest of Love, I went with Mr. Unhappy. And Time to Time, I went with Love These Hands. And if there could only be one out of that great collection of Canadiana, it would be She Ain't Pretty, because Jason, as I said, it's probably the third national anthem of Canada. And yeah, again, I listened to that one the most. It was the one that I was most aware of heading into this episode. And then, her ego wrote checks incredibly fast, but her personality didn't have the cash. I feel like I'm repeating a lot of what I've already said, but that line to me is just brilliant. And I think everything about this song, start to finish, it's brilliant. It's a great story that they're telling. It's take you on a journey kind of thing. It's incredible. I think it's one of the greatest songs that this country has produced, and I think that the Northern Pikes are yeah, I think that's their iconic song that that I would feel a little bit sad if I went to a show and they didn't play it, which would probably never happen. But
never happen.
I digress. I digress, Jason. And of course, you have a connection with the song as well, as much as you've played it live. Yeah, it's my pick.
All right. Off of the Northern Pikes EP, I'm going with I Think I'm Sorry. From Big Blue Sky, I went with Teen Land. From Secrets of the Alibi, I went with Hopes Go Astray. From Snow in June, I went with Girl with a Problem. Off of Neptune, I went with Believe. From Truest Inspiration, I went with Head First. Off of It's a Good Life, I went with It's a Good Life. Off of Long Walk Home, their collaboration with Survivor Man, I went with We Crawl. Off of Forest of Love, I went with King and His Castle. And From Time to Time, I went with their rework of Dream Away. But if there can only be one Northern Pikes song, and I'm probably going to surprise you on this one, I'm going with Believe. This is, if any time someone asks me where to start with the Northern Pikes, as much as She Ain't Pretty would be the familiar choice, I'm going to point them towards Believe and the entire Neptune album, because I think it's one of those discs that is a little underrated. Everyone is going to have a copy of Snow in June. People probably have a copy of Big Blue Sky kicking around because those are the albums with the biggest releases. Don't sleep on Neptune. There's a lot on this disc. All right, Joseph, thank you so much for this. Now, please let our listeners know where they can find you out there on the interwebs and what you've been up to.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Joseph Whalen 17, and you can follow me on X at Joe Whalen 19 because I like different numbers, and those are the two numbers that I chose for my profiles online. But Jason, you can, I'm around, so this is where you can often find me on this podcast talking about music and Canadian music and different songs that I think are the third or fourth national anthem of Canada.
I feel like we need to make a compilation CD, unofficial anthems of Canada as made by us. Dude,
and Home for Arrest is on there too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the way we end it, with a drink in hand.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for this. And to you, our dear listeners, well, you guys know the drill. If there's an artist that you want us to cover on There Can Only Be One, or an album you want us to cover on Spin Shuffle Skip, hit us up on social media at OnlyOneCast, or go to our website at NotThatBadCast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our movie shows like It's Not That Bad, Keep Watch Pass, and Grading on a Curve. Until next time, he's Joseph, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. Elbows out, everyone. Take care.